What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Punch Ons, the channel where we break down UFC cards, give predictions, and build a few multis to help you do a bit better on the punt. I'm Cody, I'm a lifelong fight fan, and I've watched almost every single UFC fight over the past decade. I've got a deep knowledge of the UFC and how these fights play out. On this channel, I'll be bringing you my breakdowns, predictions, and betting angles to help you make sense of the matchups. Quick note before we get started, this show is for 18 plus punters. Gamble responsibly. Odds can change quickly and nothing here is financial advice. I'm just a hardcore Aussie fight fan who's excited to talk about the Punch Ons. So let's get into it. Johnny Walker just silenced the crowd at UFC China in Shanghai, knocking out Zhang Mingyang in the second round with some leg kicks and then some brutal ground and pound. I'm going to go through each fight and give you my breakdown from the card, and yeah, let's get started. The first thing I did want to talk about was the crowd. The crowd was pretty awesome. It was good to see a Chinese crowd getting into it. Nice to have a card at a prime time in Australia too. 5 p.m. the fight started because I think we're in a similar time zone to China. And yeah, it was nice just to have the fights on at the end of a Saturday afternoon, get to watch the card. It did go on a little bit late for my old tired ass, but yeah, no, it was a decent card overall. The crowd was getting hyped from the first fight. I started watching it from the very first fight. And from that first fight, the crowd was into it. They were chanting, doing like, there was just energy in the room. It was awesome. Yeah, it was good to see. Not like some of those shit crowds in Brazil and like in the Apex and stuff like that. So, no, awesome crowd. Respect to the Chinese crowd. They had a few cool moments and interactions with the fighters who were trying to talk Chinese to them and stuff and doing a pretty good job. The translating was a little bit difficult because at times there was up to 2 translators in the octagon trying to translate from whatever language was being spoken, like Russian or whatever, into Chinese and then into English for Bisping to kind of talk to the fighters. But the fighters were getting what Bisping said translated to them from their personal translators, who then had to kind of have some moments where they interacted with the Chinese translator. Anyway, it was a bit messy. It was hard. There was I'm not sure if what was said by the Chinese translation lady was the same as what was really being said, but props to her. She had a bit of a go. I couldn't tell what the fuck she was saying, but she had a little notepad and she was scribbling it down. There was a couple of funny moments, like where Aljo called out Volkanovski and she was like, who? And she's like, Volkanovski. It was pretty funny. But yeah, she had a good crack. It's not quite the same as what's his name, Fabian or Fabio or whatever, the Brazilian or Portuguese translator guy who just matches the energy of the fighter and knows the kind of UFC scene and does a bit more to kind of connect to what the fighter's saying. But anyway, it was, a good crowd. The translators did their best. Let's get into the breaking down the card, eh? So, yeah, the UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Zhang. The first fight down here was Uran Satibodiev taking on DR Nerguzai. A couple of hard names to pronounce there, but I picked Uran Satibodiev by finish. I thought maybe he would get a TKO. Hadn't really seen him fight except for his one other poor performance in the UFC. I'm not sure if it was him or Nerguzai who fought Martin Buday to a sloppy decision. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, so doing my best. Hopefully my voice is a little less nasal from here on out. But Satibodiev landed a big right hand in the first round and just dropped Nerguzai. I thought he was maybe going to swarm and TKO, but he ended up in guard and kind of on the back, I think, and then he grabbed Nerguzai's arm and went for a rear-mounted Kimura. Thought he was going to get it. The commentators started going crazy, but then he sort of rolled over onto his back and man, Satibodiev got a nasty Ezekiel choke from the top. It's like a big bear hug, just hugged him tight as. And I think Alexander Volkov got the same one on Tai Tuivasa, and Alexei Olenek, the boa constrictor, the old heavyweight, I think he used to get a few of these. That was like his famous choke. But yeah, awesome result for Uran Satibodiev. He got an Ezekiel choke finish. Pretty cool. Decent fight. Quick fight, over pretty quick. 1 from 1, but the prelims were about where I got most of my predictions. So, Zhao Long versus Su Young Yu. Not going to call huge robbery, but I thought Zhao Long should have got the nod on this fight. I thought he won at least 2 rounds. I think every round there was an argument for either fighter. I think it was like a sort of somewhat sloppy but technically-ish sort of fight on the feet where Zhao Long, to me, seemed like he was the more active kind of like effortful kind of, I guess, had more presence in the cage and was doing a bit more offensive stuff, which is sort of where the UFC, I thought, judging has been heading. But Su Young Yu kind of just looked kind of tight and more precise, and a little bit less activity, but more, I guess, accuracy, which sometimes in a boxing fight is what they are looking for, which essentially was a kickboxing fight. Zhao Long was throwing some different stuff and trying his best to get involved, but it was pretty like lowish level, kind of pedestrian, somewhat interesting at times, kickboxing. And Zhao Long, to me, should have got it done 2-0 or 3. I reckon there's a better argument for Zhao Long 3-0 than there is for Su Young Yu to have 2-0 even. Like, I don't know. Interesting fight. Not all that, upset about the result, but I think I did end up picking Su Young Yu. Don't think he got the win. Don't think he actually won, though. Yi Jia versus Weston Wilson. Yi Jia whooped his ass and made him look like he didn't belong in the cage, and I think that's a pretty decent assumption of it. I don't think Yi Jia is all that good. I think Weston Wilson is just shit, and he looked like he was scared and timid and didn't belong in there. He's 17-10 now. Probably cut him from the UFC unless you want more moments like that, which why would you? Well, unless you want to just build stars and stuff. He looked like a less active and less durable Chris Mutino. So, yeah, cut him. Yi Jia gets it done. Don't know what his next move is. Michel Pereira, disappointing for him and just for punters probably worldwide. I think a lot of people would have had Michel Pereira as a sure thing in their multis. I know what you put it probably would have been one of my surer picks for this card, but respect to Kyle Dorcas. He landed a mad out of the blue, like right hand. I thought it was maybe a tight elbow at one point, but I think it was a right hand to ground strikes at 43 seconds of round 1. So Michel Pereira, his career's gone down the shitter. It's a shame because there was a time where if he started winning a few more fights, we could have seen some really interesting fights like Michel Pereira versus Izzy or like versus DDP or something. But he just never quite got the important wins when he wanted to. Now he's losing to Kyle Dorcas and he's on a 3 or 4 fight loss streak. Yeah, Michel Pereira, bad luck, mate. You're done. But yeah, Kyle Dorcas, cool story, bro. Rongju versus Austin Hubbard. Not much of a fight either. Probably the second most boring fight on the card. Austin Hubbard just looked like shit. And so did Rongju, but he looked slightly less like shit. Austin Hubbard was trying to take him down and he couldn't. And landed at 34%, whereas Rongju was a bit more tight and concise, stuffing the takedowns, sort of whooping up Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard clearly lost, I think, all 3 rounds. I think maybe some judges gave it 29-28. I saw all 3 for Rongju, and yeah, I kind of zoned out in that fight. Next up was Charles Johnson versus Lonnie Kavanagh. A little bit of a fraud check. Inner G gets it done by second round TKO. It was pretty awesome, cool, highlight-looking KO, but Lonnie Kavanagh, you better take some lessons from this one because you just backed up from a exchange in a close-ish fight with your hands down and got chinned to the shadow realm. So, by a flyweight. He looked good in round 1, Kavanagh. He was, I think at the start of the fight, Charles Johnson looked a little bit overwhelmed and like he'd worn a couple of good shots at the start, and I thought he looked like he was in a little bit of trouble, but credit to him, crafty vet performance. He stayed in it and took some decent shots, and I probably would have, I think somewhat into that fight, my housemate said the mood's shifted here. I think Charles Johnson's taken over, and sure enough, not that long after that, he chinned him, and Lonnie Kavanagh he loses his O. So I think I picked Lonnie Kavanagh, and he did not get it done. So probably another couple of multis got toasted there, though. Guru, good pick there. You picked Charles Johnson. Some people probably did. Maheshate versus Gage Young. Not a lot to say about this fight. It was kind of boring. I thought Gage Young won all 3 rounds. Maybe you could give Maheshate one of them, but I don't think so. There was 131 total strikes landed by Gage Young and 79 by Maheshate, and it felt like Gage Young was just more active and doing a bit more. Nothing really much to say about this fight except respect to Gage Young for holding it down for the West and for the boys, for the West, walking out to proud to be an American in the middle of China, and getting the win over the Chinese prospect. So, good job, Gage Young. He's 1-1 in the UFC, I think now, or maybe 2-1. maybe something with a bit of potential for some fun fights at lightweight, but he didn't look like the most fun fighter. All right, moving on to the next fight, which was the start of the main card, I believe. Nuraji Tayalake taking on Kiefer Crosby, and this was pretty horrendous. Kiefer Lionheart Crosby got absolutely dusted up with an illegal knee. It was pretty square and pretty flush on the chin. Kiefer Crosby took it like a man. Absolutely shook his brains up and knocked him out, basically, but he somehow toughed it out. The ref stopped it, and rightfully so, and he took 2 points. Credit to the ref for taking 2 points, but here's what I kind of have a problem with. Like, in fights, a fighter will cop a nut shot or a eye poke, and when they're gassed out, and they'll take the full 5 minutes and kind of be allowed to get the 5 minute bung on that they get. Dude, there's friggin' doctor comes in the cage after Kiefer Crosby's been down for half a minute, and the ref is putting pressure. I think it was Mark Goddard. He's putting pressure on the doctor. Is he good to go? What's happening? What are we doing? And Kiefer Crosby's just KO'd in the Shadowland, and he's just eating this absolutely flush, perfect knee from Tayalaka, whatever his name is. And the doctor's yeah, he's all good, you good? And he's ooh. And then the ref's are you good, Kiefer? This is 45 seconds to 1 minute max after he's just been smacked. And they're he's yeah, okay, whatever, I'll fight. And he was not ready to fight. They should have taken more time and given him more time, or honestly, they should have been a no contest or a DQ, but they let it go. Kiefer Crosby, respect Lionheart. He ends up in the Lionheart position quickly after and just gets smacked up on the ground with elbows and TKO'd. It was split up and stuff as well. I don't know if he got split from the knee. I think it hit him on the bottom of the chin. He was split on the top of the head or something. But yeah, it was a pretty brutal finish for Tayalake, and I don't know if Kiefer Crosby's got what it takes to be in the UFC, but respect to Lionheart Crosby. Then we had Sumadaji versus Kevin Borjas, and I picked this one wrong. I'm glad I didn't do a full fight predictions this week, because probably would have had a pretty rough week. I think two of my locks would have been Borjas and Michel Pereira. So, man, I don't know about Kevin Borjas. I thought he had something I remember watching a fight of his against Joshua Van maybe, and thought he had some skills, but he looked tiny at flyweight, which is weird to say, but he looked way, way outsized by Sumadaji. And Sumadaji might be a lank dad weight bully, just looking at him. He's a bit of a beanpole sort of flyweight, but it was like a big brother just doing this to the little brother, just keeping him at range with body kicks and leg kicks, and just Borjas had nothing for him. He would occasionally lunge in with a overhand kind of half jab piss weak punch, and Sumadaji would just kick him in the guts and kick him in the legs again and push him back, and then occasionally Borjas would go and rub his head up against him and hold him up against the cage for a bit, but it was not a very good fight. It killed momentum completely on the card, and it was the worst fight of the night, I reckon. So picked it wrong as well. It was a bit of a multi-killer. It was just shit, absolute rubbish. They should not have been on the main card. It is what it is. Kevin Borjas, back you go to the shadow realm, buddy, or back you go to the friggin' outside the rankings. Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta was next, and it was an okay fight, nothing special either. I picked this one wrong. I said Waldo Cortez Acosta would win by points, but I was not confident. I had a feeling, well, honestly, my biggest feeling was Sergey Pavlovich will probably put one on his chin and sleep him or win by points, but I kind of got sucked in with the $6 value on Waldo Cortez Acosta by decision. If Waldo was 20% better, he probably would have won that fight. I think he had the right strategy. He had the Volkov strategy of just staying at range, sticking and moving, and kind of annoying Volkov, but Volkov is just better, faster, rangier, longer, more skilled than Waldo, and Waldo just couldn't get in within the range, and Pavlovich was countering effectively and landed the better shots. He landed a couple of good shots in the second round, and kind of clearly schooled him 30-27. I thought you could maybe have an argument for Waldo round one, but pretty weak one. Sergey, was landing some decent shots. Waldo, respect to his chin. Don't know what you're doing with your hands up at the end of the fight there, mate. It's probably I don't really understand how he thought he could have won that fight. But, yeah, Waldo, not a whole lot of kind of much of a setback for him. He showed that he's got a good chin. He showed he can hang in there with Sergey Pavlovich, who's a pretty scary dude. And, yeah, maybe Waldo will get another ranked opponent. Heavyweight's pretty shallow. So, good win for Sergey. Good to see him back in the win column. I kind of like him too as a fighter. It's good to see him in the winning column. Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, it was an okay fight. Respect to Aljo. I like Aljo. He won clearly 50-45. Not the most exciting fight in the world. Aljo did his best to kind of strike with Ortega. Ortega, not sure what his plan is in general when he's fighting, but it's not effective, whatever it is. He sort of just sits there and waits for someone to stick their head in a guillotine or someone to stuff up, and so he can just latch onto that moment, but doesn't do anything to make those moments happen for himself. Aljo just did enough to outclass him on the feet with a bit of funky stuff and a bit of wrestling towards the back end and some ground and pound, but it was kind of annoying halfway through the fight for the commentators to go like, oh, by the way, these guys are friends. Okay, well, that makes the fight much more exciting. I'm so glad that they're being friendly to each other. And it kind of felt like a bit of a friendly fight up until, I don't know, Aljo sort of got a bit keen to win in round 5 and tried to get a half-hearted finish by throwing some ground and pound. But, yeah, it was a clear 50-45 for Aljo. Aljo called out Volk. You're not getting Volk, bro. Lerone Murphy just was the most exciting thing about that last UFC pay-per-view, and he just stamped his title fight with Volk. Volk's called him out in December. Yeah, Aljo probably a bit of a waste of a call out, but hey, maybe you'll get the backup spot or something. Good win for Aljo. Ortega, what are you doing holding up that ranking spot? Get out of the rankings. You've lost 4 of your last 5. Your best wins are Yair, Zombie, Frankie Edgar, and Cub Swanson in 2017. Time to let the division move on. Don't think you can give Aljo a title fight off beating Ortega. All right. And then we had the main event. Johnny Walker shocks the crowd, gets it done, and TKOs Zhang Mingyang in round 2. It was a pretty nasty finish as well. Like, Zhang Mingyang got whooped up and kind of embarrassed and slumped in front of a big home crowd on one of his big first main event opportunities. So, sucks for Zhang Mingyang. I kind of like him as a fighter. He seems like he's a cool guy and he's got some aura, but Johnny Walker come and spoiled the party. Man, Johnny Walker's a scary-looking dude. I had a feeling throughout the week that Johnny had a chance. A lot of people were writing him off getting chin round 1, and normally when that happens is when something alternate does happen. So I did consider picking Johnny Walker, but I thought the smart money was on Zhang Mingyang, even though they weren't offering much money, so probably the smart money should have been on Johnny Walker. But Johnny Walker, scary-looking dude. Imagine some of the fights that him and Walter Walker would have had growing up if they did. They look like they were pretty tight, but then there would be some sick fights. That would be a sick fight, actually. Johnny Walker versus Walter Walker. Johnny Walker's massive, bro. He was kind of mogging Zhang Mingyang, even at the in the stare downs and stuff. He would just look so much bigger. And Zhang Mingyang, like, he's a big dude too, but Johnny Walker's massive. He's a behemoth, eh? So, yeah, round 1 was clear Zhang Mingyang. Johnny Walker came and shot in the first 3 seconds. Like, I swear Zhang Mingyang was being too respectful and, like, wanting another fist bump after they'd done a fist bump already, like, at the start. Like, if Johnny Walker's 6'6", 6'8" frames steaming at you, don't be holding your fist out for a knuckle, brother. Get ready to go. Anyway, he kind of adjusted and Johnny Walker went for the takedown straight away and just rolled onto his back and slid down his legs like a fucking fireman pole. And Zhang Mingyang just ended up on top. And, yeah, everyone was like, oh, wow, good job, Johnny. But then he kind of stayed in it and wrestled himself back up to his feet. Mingyang landed a couple of shots, but nothing too much. And then Johnny Walker kind of just got, like, stung a few times and pushed against the cage and sort of, yeah, like, pushed back and lost round 1 clearly. It was definitely Zhang Mingyang round. And I don't know, in between rounds, Johnny Walker was kind of looked like he was still in the fight and ready to go. And I sensed the shift a little bit. And then, like, he kind of looked like he still might get knocked out in, like, his usual comedic way. And I did have Zhang Mingyang by round 2. TKO was my pick. But I started thinking Johnny was in it as soon as he came out in round 1, and he started landing a couple of leg kicks, and then like next minute, I don't really even remember what happened at the start of that round, but Johnny Walker lands a leg kick, like UFC 5 style, like Zhang Mingyang gets like legs rocked, like when you get blue leg rocked, and down he goes. Like no, Johnny Walker just kicks him again, and down he goes. Like, and Johnny Walker just swarms him and unleashes dirty ground and pound on him. Smashed a few good ones on his face. Like Zhang Mingyang got busted up on his face, and Johnny Walker just swarmed him. And I think some of the commentators were at the end. I think it was one of the dudes on the commentary desk, Alan Joban, was saying, "Man, like." Well, one of those commentary lads, I think Alan Joban was defending him, but they were saying, what was Zhang Mingyang doing? Like, get up and fight kind of thing. I was like, bro, his leg is fucked. Like, he got his calf kicked, like broken leg probably. I don't know if it was peroneal nerve or something, but his like leg's not working. Clearly that's why he went down. And then Johnny Walker was just swarming him with massive, heavy ground and pound shots. So, and Johnny Walker's got power, bro. No doubt about that. He's just a goofy, like, lanky idiot. I don't know, but he did all right. Zhang Mingyang got fucked up, and then the ref probably could have stopped it even earlier, but let it go on for a bit. And yeah, poor China crowd. They deserve their guy to get up, but Johnny Walker, ruins the party. So yeah, overall pretty good card. Hard night of punting. I think I went 7-6 on the card. Got most of the main card wrong, but there was a few upsets. So yeah, maybe I'll do better next week, hopefully, because we're going to drop a video for the Imavov versus Bahoya card, and that'll be the first full episode of the podcast. So yeah, thanks for listening to me today. If you did, and I reckon the card overall was decent. Give it a 6 out of 10. So yeah, that was my breakdown of UFC China. Johnny Walker finishing Zhang Mingyang. If you like this content, don't forget to go and like and subscribe. I just got a new podcast starting up here. I'm going to be sharing lots of content. I love talking about the UFC, so hope you enjoy listening to it. I'll see you on the next one. Punch on.